so much, choir. Let's then together find the Gospel of Luke and chapter 15. Luke's Gospel and chapter 15. 3 stories of lost this and lost that and lost this, but we're looking at the third, the story of the lost son. And beginning at verse 11, here is what it says. Jesus said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. And he divided to them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered together all and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance in righteous living. And when he'd spent all, there arose a famine in that land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his field to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his belly with the husks that the swine ate, but no one gave him anything. And when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have enough and to spare, and I perish from hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a long way off, his father saw him, had compassion upon him, and ran. And he fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto his father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring here the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For the son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. They began to make merry. A father is a very significant figure in the home. The direction, success, or failure of the home is deeply dependent upon who turns out to be the father figure in the home. Let's face it, everybody looks to the father figure for leadership. While admittedly, as we saw not so long ago, domestic governance is mutual between father and mother, and yet ultimate leadership belongs to the man. Because when man and woman are left together, the Bible says the man is the head of his woman. And so, face it therefore, look at it therefore. That's why many mistakenly think everything should be left to the man. No, not everything should be left to him, but he is deeply responsible for what goes on. For as our video showed us, well chosen, Jackie, that man tells us, I will take the lead. I will take the lead. I will take the lead. By God's grace, I will. see his humility, not in myself, but by the helping hand of God, I will. I will. Our Father should actually not only shape, but also direct, and also be exemplary, and in every way be a symbol of God on the home and in the society in which he lives. And the figure father, about whom we've read in the text, paints a glorious picture of what we who are fathers should endeavor to be, and what we who are mothers and children should encourage our parent, husband, friend to be like this man. And let's just pick out 3 of the actions that he performs that just demonstrate his fathership. He begins at the place where he actually releases his son. Really? Yes, he does. For let's not. He gives his own child freedom. He gives his material freedom in the hands of his son. For when the younger son says, "Give me what is owing to me," the father does not say, "No, son." He says, "You can have it, and you can have it all." And so the father separates himself from his son, if you like, and from his property, and lets his son use that material whichever way he wants to use it. Is that a responsible father? Because, as we have outlined in time past, ultimately his own child is saying, "Daddy, you are taking long. Your will will be done when you're dead, but I want you dead now. So give me what you come to me when you're dead, because I can't wait till you die." That's ultimately what he's saying. And this crazy father says, "All right, son, I'm dead. Have it your way." And the child distances himself from his own parent. And the child becomes the manager of what his father had given him. He is his father's son. And the son's property is his father's property. Because the child is only inheriting what his father has worked hard for. And where does he take it? Loose living. Wasted life. The father allows him? Madman. But here is the thing. A loving father will not live his own child's life. He will let his child live his own life. When the child is in its formative age, the father will do his best to direct this child, instruct this child, help this child, shape this child, discipline this child, and even to the point of walking the child to help. But when the child is grown, he can no longer mete out the same discipline that he meted out when it was a child. His influence must be the thing that works, because now he must treat his own child as if it were a friend. And so he can't choose a wife for the child. He can't keep on letting the child feed at his table and become reckless. The child must learn to be responsible. Oh, don't we say to our children in their formative years, "Son, you're going to school. Daughter, you're going to school." If the child is not going to school, then you're not coming to my house. School or you're out of here. And we take pride that our son is graduating from high school or whatever it is. And we fought hard. We worked hard to make it happen. And a good father just doesn't want the child to have good high school because he knows whether he gets 17 degrees and becomes a professor in several ways, that study is going to end with death. He wants to educate his child in matters that relate to life and godliness that go beyond the grave. If we've been hard on our children and make sure they've received high school and college and so on and so forth, shall we not work harder that they might receive education from heaven and be eternally safe? Why do we leave it to them? We didn't leave it to them to go to school to gain their physical education, but we've left it to them to gain their spiritual education. Oh, coming to church, let me ask my son if he's interested. What a shame. Isn't that why we've lost so many of our children? Because we've left it to them. How many of you were left to decide your way to heaven? In whom it was not instilled by the discipline and agency and determination of your parents? Where would you have been if they had not determined that they should educate you after that fashion? Because we have several areas, forms of parentage. We have those who don't know anything about spiritual discipline. We have those who know little about it. We have others who simply grow up into it. I don't know what kind of parent you've been. But the call of God is this. In the whole person, you take responsibility for your child, so that even when the child attains to the level where the child must fend for himself or herself, there will be that bit of you that the child will keep singing about till they themselves should enter their grave. Have you been that kind of parent? Can your child definitely say about you, Daddy is number one? And can your wife look at you and say, there's only one man I admire, you? Can your neighbors look that way and look at your home and begin to say, we wish our home were like that? Or do you sit in your home and your own children look next door, and when with tears in their eyes, they say, I wish that man were my father? Doesn't that bite you? Doesn't that sting you? Doesn't that hurt? You want your child, even when they are 40 or 50, to still turn to you and say, my father. I was speaking only yesterday to a 90-year-old, thereabout, member of our society who said to me, I still miss my father. The father has been long gone. But his grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother still misses her father. You can see how that father had invested in her life. Is that how you have invested in your children's lives? They may forget all others, but you and your influence, they'll never forget. That is because in releasing them, they realize you are actually saying, you go, but go only so far as to realize you can turn back to me. And I will always be there for you. And this is what we see in the next segment of our search in God's word today concerning this father. For he who releases his son actually now recognizes his son. Because, you see, the text tells us this child goes away and he wastes himself and he wastes his father's property, and everything around him is sour. Nothing is sweet. Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems concerned about him. Nobody just can invest in his life to the point which he can say, I have someone to turn to. Then in the midst of his agony, in the midst of his pain, in the midst of his torture, in the midst of his anguish, he remembers, the servants at my father's place are happier than I am. I will go and become a servant there, because a servant in my father's house is much better off than I am. And he turns to go to his father. And notice what the father does. While he's yet a long way off, the father feels with him, feels for him. For that's what it says, he has compassion. And what does he do? He runs to his son. How many of us have rebellious children? Children about whom we can say, did that child come out of me? Well, God says that about his people. Did these people come out of me? But he has not been idle about it. And so he should also not be idle about it. And so this father has actually been longing for his son, recognizes him from his distance, and runs to him. Your child will always be your child. They may be naughty, it's your business to discipline. And discipline, not in such a way as to kill your child. That's not disciplining. To discipline is to straighten. It's your business to straighten your child. They may be sick. It's your business to do every bit you can do to make sure that they become all right. You can never overinvest in the life of your own child. Educationally, health-wise, no, you never can. But are you doing it? Let's reiterate. As they begin to grow and they think they have their independent minds, that spirit of rebellion will come in. I'm a child, I'm 18, so what? But that's a big boast in our country. I'm 18, they want to live with girlfriends and you just live like that. In 18, what's 18 after all? And that's what our children do. That 18 rebellious child, that 28 rebellious, still your child. You can't say no, it's your business. Eli's children are so old, or so rebellious, that in the temple of God, they not only dishonor the sacrifices of God, they also sleep with the women who come to offer sacrifices there. God does not say, you children, I'll punish just you. He says to Eli, you have failed to discipline. They're grown-up fellows, but he says, yes, you failed to discipline. The thing is, how did I bring them up? How am I influencing them? What is there about me that should win them back? You see, this child remembers when all else fails, then he says, it may fail here, but it will not fail with my father. It may be hard here, but it will be soft with my father. It may be harmful here, but it will be helpful with my father. Will your child think like that wherever they are, whatever they are doing? Will they remember that about you, something about you that will know at their soul, so that in the midst of all else laughing at them and mocking them and hurting them, they say, I'll go to my father. And you will see in turn, and you will say, yeah, that's my child. Naughty, sick, still your child, and you need to help them. Rebellious, still your child, and you need to help them. Dirty, still your child. Recognize that. But don't just recognize it. See it. Finally, this father receives his own child. For when he sees him at a distance, after running to him, which is very shameful for him to do, because you're not supposed to bring yourself so low as a Hebrew father when you're dealing with your own child. You're supposed to be, on a pedestal But this man humbles himself and should look very foolish with his garments as he runs towards his son. But that's his way of showing, I'm receiving back my son. The son comes back dirty, he cleans him. The son comes back rejected, he receives him. The son comes back empty, he makes him full. He comes back hungry, he feeds him. He comes back without clothes, he clothes him. Whatever fails, the father comes to fill it in. So whatever else was not working there, it comes to work the moment he comes back to his father. Can your child find that this is a situation with you? That whatever failed elsewhere, when the child turns back to you, something will work. Because you are that father about whom he can say, wherever he is, whatever he is doing, I will go back to my father. If he has no sense, as this child happened to have had, that's different. If he can't come to himself and think, that's different. But the question is, how much have you done? You, as a father. Now, God is able to help, as our story said, Taylor said earlier, and he can make you the kind of father you need to be. And so you'll be inspirational to your wife, because when you love her, as you should, who is your wife, she will be naturally submissive, and the moment the story is sweet between husband and father, it's very unlikely that rebellious children will be produced. Very unlikely that chaotic society will be produced. Very unlikely that a distraught nation will be produced. It's all centered on what you turn out to be like, you, Father. And I want to say, as a good man spoke in the little story we saw, you're meant to be a father, not just to your biological children. Some of us may not have biological children, but to all who look to you for leadership. What kind of person have you turned out to be? And the rest of us, what will we do to help these men turn out to be the sort of fathers they should? We don't leave it to them. We invest in their lives, not by rebuking them, but by helping them out. I think I've told you this story, but to refresh your memory. Those of us who are ladies know how to rebuke men more often than not. But the worst way to kill a man is to actually stick snide remarks into his life. It kills him. I just lost a lovely, lovely girl, about whom when I told Peggy, she said, "Can I reach out that night?" I said, "Peggy, you are Peggy, and Peggy is a fabulous woman. And it had to be Peggy for me to marry." Don't tell her that. My father noticed I was delaying after losing this girl and finding somebody else. And so he just said, in the desperation of a father, "Son, there's a young girl there who you can marry." I said, "Yes, sir, let me hear you." He knew I wanted to marry somebody who was already a Christian. And I said, "No, but listen to me, son. If she's not a Christian, you can help her become a Christian." Already wrong theology, but it was my father, and I could not say, "Daddy, you are wrong." So I listened politely, pretending to be a very obedient child. So, you see, a man had a wife who was very respectful, but he had a nasty habit. He was stealing chickens. And he would bring the chickens home, and the woman would cook, but not once did she ever share in a meal with him. She just cooked. One time he turned and said to her, "Wife, I bring a delicacy here, and you'd rather have kale or what is that green vegetable we have here? Broccoli, thank you, you know. And instead of sharing the chickens, why chicken?" And the woman then says, "Sir, I am your wife, and as your wife, it's my responsibility to cook for you. But I know the means through which these chickens come. I don't agree with that. But as your wife, I cook for you. But to take part in what comes into the home wrongly, that I will not do." As politely as that. That's how the man became a Christian. She could have just said, "You thief! You, whatever it said, you thief!" No, I said, "No, sit down, sir. This is your problem. And the man will just go through guilt. Wives, you can help these husbands become excellent fathers and husbands if we respect them for who they are. And those of us who have unbelieving husbands might well win them over when we behave ourselves after that fashion. But children, have fathers broken your hearts? A good father doesn't. But you see, a child who goes and says to daddy, you are number one, what are you investing in my life? Will help that father be the sort of father he should be. But steer it in them, Father. Show them that you are worthy being called number one. Now I feel like I'm just beginning. So I can go on for the next 7 days. But you won't thank me. So let's pray.